Hey guys, today we're going to be discussing the Intune app protection policy or endpoint app protection policies. When do we use it and why do we use it? So we usually apply those policies in an environment where we have BYOD or bring your own device, where employees can use their mobile device, whether it's an iPhone, Android, or an iPad, to access corporate data. Now we want to protect this corporate data, but at the same time, if we ask them to enroll those devices in Intune, basically we are asking them to give us full control over those devices. And it's a process of enrolling them. We have to teach them how to enroll them. And a lot of employees would oppose to the idea to give the company full access to their devices. So you end up having to purchase devices and provide the employees with those devices so they can access corporate data. Now, instead we can use the app protection policies, which basically it's a more flexible approach to managing those mobile devices. So instead of enrolling and fully managing the entire device, you can focus on securing and protecting the corporate apps and data that are accessed through those devices. So today we're going to see how to configure the policies, how to apply them to a group of people, and how to block native apps on mobile devices like email, for example, if you want them to use only Outlook and not use the native app on the Apple device or the native app on the Android, so you can block access to email from those and only allow it through your apps that you want to allow them to. So let's get to it. So I am logged into Intune Manager, and that's basically endpoint.microsoft.com. And what I'm going to do is go to Apps, and then App Protection Policies. And here I can create a policy. Now you can choose between iOS, iPad OS, or Android. Let's start with the iOS because that's what I'm going to give the demo on. You can name it whatever you want. I'm going to call it My iOS iPad OS policy. So targeting the policy to an apps, I would choose all Microsoft apps because that's what we want to apply it to. If we click on view list of apps that will be targeted, we can see that it's all the apps that we care about, the Microsoft Office, Outlook, Teams, and such. We hit next. And now those are the options that we want to choose. As you can see, backup org data to Intune and iCloud backups. I would block this on personal devices. There's no need for them to back up this data. That defeats the purpose. Now, send organization data to other apps. I would choose the policy managed apps so they can copy, paste, stuff like that to only the apps that we allow, which is Outlook. The Microsoft apps that we're controlling, they can't copy it to something else. And that's the purpose of this policy, is to control what they can and can't do. If you have any exemptions, you can. Usually we do not. It's a personal device. Save copies of organization data. I would also block this, but select where they can. So companies SharePoint, they can. OneDrive for business, we can allow it, and that's it. We don't want to take screenshots and such. Now, I don't really want to spend the whole video going through every one of them, but I just wanted to touch the first ones, which are important. Also, this policy here, restrict cut, copy, and paste between other apps. We would keep it at the policy managed apps with spaced in, and this way, basically, I'm telling it you can cut and paste and copy between only the apps that we're controlling, but nothing else. Usually we keep the third-party keyboard as allow, because this basically creates some errors on the Android devices if you do not. We require encryption. I'm going to leave this require. I would block this and say next. Now here the pin for access. This is really very important. You do want to require it. The pin type you can choose between numeric or passcode, a simple pin, or if you're a hip hop, maybe you want to go to 6. And if you want to block simple pins like 1, 2, 3, 4 or such, you would block it. If you want to allow Touch ID, that's a good idea. Why not? The timeout, I found out over the years that's 60 minutes. It's better. This is basically the timeout from the last time they opened the app. When are they required to put in the passcode again? So an hour would be good. Do we want them to reset the pin every a month or 2 months? I usually leave it at no. There's no need for this. And we leave everything else basically as is, and we hit next. These settings, I usually leave them on default. They work great. Maximum pin, if they entered the pin 5 times and it was wrong, they need to reset it. If the phone or the device is jailbroken, we do not want them to access. If they are offline for all this time, we block access. It means they no longer with the company, or they are on PTO for a long time and such. And then if basically they stayed for 90 days, 3 months without them accessing any data, we wipe the data, only the data that the corporate data. We're not wiping anything from their phone other than the corporate data. Now, usually if we let someone go or someone left the company, we would go manually and delete this corporate data. But let's say we forgot, this would do it in 90 days. We hit next. Time to assign this to a group of users. We do not assign this to devices usually. We assign it to users. So I'm going to add a group. And I do have this group which contains one user that we're going to test with. I'm going to select this, as you can see, it's one user. And if you want to exclude some group, if you want to add all the company, for example, and exclude the few users, you can. If you want to do a pilot, you can pick a group with a few users and try. My advice is do not apply this company wide until you try it. So you can go with a pilot group, try it for a couple of weeks, see how things work, and then go from there. Select next, and basically now we just look at the policies we created and we hit create, and we wait for the policy to be created. Now this is again iPad and iOS. If you want to do an Android, you have to go do one for the Android, which is exactly the same. It's just applying for an Android, and you create it. I'm just gonna create one for the iPhones today because that's what I'm gonna do the demo on an iPad. So at this point, we created this policy. We applied it to the group, which in my case has one user, and it's gonna work. However, we're basically the user now can access corporate data from the apps that we actually allow them to, and from other apps, because we're not forcing it. We need to enforce this policy by a conditional access, and we can say do not allow any mobile device to access any corporate data unless they have an app protection policy assigned to them. And basically when we do that, any user with their own mobile device, unless the policies are applying to their phone, they can no longer access it. And that's how we want to do it. So the way we do this is we go to endpoint security, conditional access, and we want to create a new policy. We can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it Intune Require App Protection Policy. For users, I'm going to choose the same group that I chose earlier. Users or groups. I'm going to choose the MFA enabled group. Now I'm going to go to target resources. I'm going to choose all cloud apps. Again, you'd have to basically try these things on a group of people. Do not just apply it company-wide until you try everything. But I'm going to go ahead and do all cloud apps. I'm going to go to conditions, device platform, and I'm going to say apply this to Android and iOS devices. This way, any iPhone, any Android phone, and any iPad, this would apply to them. And then grant control, and basically I'm going to say grant them access, but do require app protection policy. And I'm going to say select, I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to create it. Okay, so now it's successfully created. Please give it a few minutes, I don't know, 15, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or up to an hour or two. It depends on your location. Sometimes these policies do not apply immediately. Usually you'd have to wait a little bit. So I'm just going to wait about an hour and then come back for the demo. Now, if you like this content, please subscribe and like this video for more content like this. Uh, Now, before we go into the demo, I would like to create one more conditional access policy that would block native apps like the iPhone email native app and such, because we will only want them to access the email from Outlook app. If we allow them to access the email from the native app, if someone left the company, we can't basically delete the email from their email and such. So that's what we want to do. So the next basically thing is to go and create a new policy, which is an access conditional access policy, and let's call it Intune policy block native apps. You can choose whatever you want to call it, and let's again assign it to the same group, which is the MFA. Now here under target, we really want to do one app only, which is Exchange Online. Oops. So if I type Exchange here, and that's what we want to do. This is for email. Now under conditions, we're going to go to device platforms and also choose Android and iOS. And under client apps, we're going to configure it for active sync clients and other clients. So basically, we're not blocking them from using the browser to access email. And now here under grant, we're going to grant them access, but do require app protection policies, again, to apply. We're going to turn it on, and we're going to create it. So at this point, we are ready to start our demo. However, let me just go over a few things that we need to know before we start. So from now on, since we applied this policy, the email can only be accessed through Outlook. However, users that are already logged in using native apps like the email on the iPhone or iPad would need to be logged out first in order for this policy to apply to them. So you would need to go to, if you're applying this to an iPad or an iPhone, the Microsoft Authenticator app has to be installed because this device would be registered with Azure ID. It's not going to be registered with Intune, but with Azure ID. So Authenticator would have to be installed. If it's not, the user would be redirected to download it. Now for Android devices, the user would have to install the company portal app in order to do this. Now, with that being said, for Androids, if you're not planning to have them register for Intune or enroll in Intune and you're only doing the app protection policy, you would need to block their devices from registering and fully enrolling in Intune. And I'm going to show you quickly how to block it right now. So in order to block enrolling personal device, Android devices into Intune when they go through the process of the app, the company portal, you would go to the endpoint manager. You would go to all I'm sorry, devices, enroll devices, and then enrollment device platform restrictions. You would basically edit this policy or create a new policy. It's up to you. Go to properties, edit, and simply under Android here, as you can see, you can block the personal owned devices, review and save. This way, we're basically forcing the unmanaged devices to actually uh, not enroll, but only the corporate devices if you do have corporate devices. Now, if you do not have any corporate devices, Android devices, just block everything. This way, when they go through the process, the phone is not going to be enrolled in Intune, but only for app protection policy. Okay, so here's my iPad. As you can see, I do have native email set up, and I do have few emails here. And I do have the Microsoft Outlook app installed, but the email is not set up yet, and I have the Authenticator app installed, but I also did not add the account yet. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and try to set up my Outlook email and go through the process and see what you're going to see, what the end user is going to see once this happens. So I'm going to go ahead and add this email to Outlook. This is the user that we're testing on. So I'm going to say add account. And as you can see, it says open the authenticator. And the reason it needs to register this user in Azure AD. I already have the authenticator downloaded, but it's not set up. So it's now asking me to actually log in. Go ahead and enter the password. And I'm going to say sign in. After I registered for MFA, as you can see, I'm coming here and it says help us keep your device secure. Register your device to continue. And this is basically a one-time setup that the Intune is going to register this mobile device in Azure. And it's going to ask me to send a code, which I'm going to go ahead and enter. As you can see now, the app protection policy is actually kicking in. Your organization is now protecting your data. You'll need to restart the app. I'm going to say OK. And restart the app again. Now I'm getting this message after I restarted it. Your IT administrator is now helping you protect work or school data. I'm going to click OK. Now I'm being asked to enter a PIN code. So I'm going to go ahead and enter something. Confirm it. Say next. And it's asking me for a code again. Of course, I'm going to turn on notification for email. And as you can see, I'm now logged into my email on Outlook. However, if I actually go back to my native email, it's still working, as you can see. with no problems. So now Outlook is working, but my other email is still working. And the only way to revoke this is to sign out the user from all their Office apps, and basically, when they come in to sign in again, they will be getting an error message that they can't log in. And we're gonna do a demo right now and show you how. So now I'm logged into admin.microsoft.com, which is the Office 365 portal. This is our user, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to log him out of all the apps. Now, if you want to do this to a group of users, let me know in the comments below, and I'll create a video for that. But for now, we're just going to do it for this user. So I'm going to click on Sign Out of All Sessions. And this is going to take some time. I'm just going to wait until this happens. I'm going to pause the video and come back when I'm signed out of all sessions. So now I just opened my Outlook, and as you can see my Outlook app, and it says on the bottom here, it says please sign in to your Office 365 account. And now at this point, if I opened my Outlook, my regular Outlook, it's trying to check email, and it's asking me to enter the password again. Go ahead and do it, and I'm going to sign in. And I'm going to say verify for the MFA. And as you can see, you can't get there from here. So this native app no longer would work. You can only now access it through the uh, the uh, the Outlook. Now, if I went back to my Outlook app, and I say sign in, simply going to enter my password here and sign in. And as you can see, I'm logging in actually to my email right now, and it's working. So now we basically controlled what can open email and what can't. So the user no longer can use their native app, but they can only use Outlook, which we can control and we can delete if we needed to. Now, other things we can test is copy and paste. For example, if I go here to this email, and let's copy something. This email doesn't have anything to copy. Let's send ourselves a new email. Let me send an email. I'll pause and come back when I send a new email with some content so we can copy it. So here's an email I just sent, and it has this text. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this text, and I'm going to go ahead and try to paste it somewhere. And let's paste it to this app, for example. So if I go paste, as you can see, it says your organization's data cannot be pasted here. But if I go and open another Outlook session or any of the Microsoft approved apps, and let's say I open this email and I run a new email, for example, and try to paste here. As you can see, the text has pasted. So you can paste this in Teams in any of the approved apps, but you can't do it in an outside app that is not approved. Remember, we set up the policy to block copying, and that's why it's blocking it. Now it depends on what you set up. That's what it's going to do. So with that, this concludes the whole thing. This is basically how we set up and control the apps. Now there's one more thing we can do is deleting this data off of users' personal devices. Uh, Again, if you need a video like this, leave me a comment in the text, in the box in the comments below. Ask me for this video and I'll create it for you. Well, thank you for watching my videos. Please remember to subscribe and like this video, and we'll see you in the next nugget.